The operator of a Pacific-wide network of pharmacy companies, Ayaz Mohammed Musa Umaji, was sentenced to 4 years prison in New Zealand in August for illegally importing millions of dollars worth of pseudoephedrine, a precursor chemical of methamphetamine. But a joint investigation by the Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, the Fiji Times, the New Zealand Herald and Radio New Zealand has found that behind the conviction of Umaji was a far murkier story. The Fijian national had long been a target of police in his home country, but had for years escaped justice. That was thanks to what Fijian and international law enforcement say was an unwillingness by the previous authoritarian government of Frank Bainimarama to seriously tackle meth and cocaine trafficking. Fiji's new government, which was elected last December, is now investigating donations that Umaji and his family made to the previous ruling party, as well as potential connections to top law enforcement officials. Koroi Hawkins spoke with the lead Pacific editor for the Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, Aubrey Balford, and began by asking how they got wind of the story.
So this story started, as a lot of stories do in the Pacific, that there were a lot of rumours around about Ayaz Musa Umaji and his alleged involvement in drug trafficking. And so we're looking into him, and then we realised earlier this year that he had actually surrendered himself to authorities in New Zealand and pleaded guilty to importing pseudoephedrine, which is a precursor chemical for making meth, into New Zealand using different branches of his hyperchem companies, which are pharmacies spread throughout the Pacific. So as we started looking into this, we wanted to look behind it, into who is this person, what are his connections in Fiji, and why did it take so long for there to be a successful case against him.
And he's been, up to this point, a pillar of the community.
I mean, he's been quite a prominent businessman. He was the vice president of the Fiji Football Association. The hyperchem pharmacies are quite widespread, not just in Fiji, but also there are branches in Solomon Islands. There's newly established branch in Vanuatu. Previously, there were also companies registered in Samoa. Yes, I mean, he was reasonably prominent in the community. And, what we found looking into this is that he was suspected of involvement in the drug trade as far back as 2017. He was on the Fiji police's radar. He was charged by New Zealand police in 2019. But despite that, and despite it being, fairly open secret, he still maintained these positions in the Fiji Football Federation in business, and also he and his family and business partners donated to the former ruling party, to Fiji First Party.
And in your investigations, talking about how long he's been able to operate until being convicted now, what were your findings in terms of how he managed to, stay in those positions so long?
I mean, there really was a feeling in Fiji for many years that he was a difficult target to reach. He was seen as being well-connected in the country. Local police investigation just didn't manage to collect the evidence that would have been needed to convict him. So actually, the way that he ended up going down was that New Zealand police looked into the case and actually looked into an already existing case of someone who was arrested in Auckland with a large amount of cold and flu pills that had pseudoephedrine in them. And when they looked into that case and the details of how that was moved into the country, they found that it was Musa's hyperchem network that was used to facilitate this. And so really that was, in the end, how the case was built. But it was very hard, even after that point, to still get Musa. It took about 2 years for extradition to be granted from Fiji, and by the time it was granted, it turned out that Ayaz Musa had already left Fiji and gone to India. So then, it was a long process again to get him back. He ended up actually turning himself in and was sentenced to 4 years in prison just in August. Yeah, but it was quite a long and drawn-out process.
Have you had a response from the former Fiji government administration, former Prime Minister Bainimarama, Ayaz Said Qayyum, the Attorney General?
We reached out to all of them for comment. We received no response from any of them, unfortunately. We did send them, detailed written questions, but yes, up until this point, there's been no response.
all of this again bringing to light. We've heard talks about the drug highway, so to speak, of the transition of drugs across the Pacific. This sort of the first insight into actually some of the rumors that we've been hearing about this trade being embedded and being able to flourish because of connections in each of the islands.
Yeah, so the Pacific is really in a pretty important drug route for our region. You know, Australia and New Zealand have some of the highest prices for cocaine and meth, the highest retail prices. So anyone who's producing this in North and South America, really, I mean, if they're able to get across the Pacific to these markets, the profits are immense. And obviously the Pacific Islands are right in the middle of this. Fiji, in particular, is a really important transit point because Fiji really is a hub of the Pacific. You know, the Nadi airport is a major airport. There are seaports there. The mail comes through Fiji. So, you know, it's been known for quite some time that it is an important transit point. And it's a place that, you know, international criminal networks are operating. What's really interesting about the case of Ayaz Musa is that he is a Fijian with a Pacific-wide pharmaceutical network that is also has been involved in the supply of pseudoephedrine, you know, into this market. It really just highlights how important the Pacific drug trade is, and also just how much it's been perhaps overlooked for quite some time and really allowed to thrive. I mean, this is really a growing industry. It's immensely profitable. And, you know, when you're talking about the Pacific, where countries are often, you know, just not that big, the amount of money in play can really affect things.
And you obviously, as with all of your stories, Pacific collaboration with different orgs in the region and in New Zealand, and our team at RNZ Pacific also able to contribute on this project?
Yes, we got great contribution here from the RNZ Pacific team. Kelvin and Lydia are just great reporters. And, you know, the contribution's been invaluable. We also worked with the Fiji Times on this one, and we worked with the New Zealand Herald, Jared Savage there, who's a fantastic reporter on organised crime here in New Zealand. So we couldn't have done it without any of our partners.